I lived in LA back in the 80s and we used to play the celebrity game. You'd get minimal points if you saw Carrie Fisher at one of her book signings or Michelle Pfeiffer at a gala event. But if you ran into Michael Jackson in some back aisle of the hardware store browsing supplies, then that was bonus buku points. The more unlikely the circumstances that you saw or ran into a celebrity, the more points you obviously got. I met and hung out with Beck, the Grammy Award winning singer and songwriter Beck, back when he was only 16. I was maybe 21, 22 at the time. And this is that story. I don't know how many points I get. Probably more than seeing Carrie Fisher at a book signing. Maybe less than Michael Jackson in the hardware store. But you might find it fun. And I have a good time relating it. Welcome to the Bald and Bloviating Podcast. I am your host, Mookie Spitz, and I'll be telling this story in another solo podcast. Buckle up. This one is from a blog I wrote back a few years ago called Hi, I'm Beck, and I'm going to be famous. How faking it until making it can actually work. And he was a proof in concept. We go back to North Hollywood, California, the spring of 1986. A rebel with countless futile causes, I put myself through senior year of college by ghostwriting research papers and working in a pizzeria on Reseda Boulevard in the Valley. The joint got robbed once a month, employees locked in the storage room at gunpoint. We snorted lines of coke off the countertops while making calzones, and the assistant manager was a bull dyke named Ava. Meet my daughter, Dana, she'd announce, introducing a brunette woman roughly her same age who was as feminine and voluptuous as Ava was boyish and slim. Daughter, I'd ask, native Midwesterner that I was, and still rather naive about this kind of stuff out here on the West Coast. They're lesbians, dickhead, said my coke snorting, calzone rolling colleague Dwayne, a Hell's Angel when he wasn't restocking the salad bar. Despite being clueless, and likely because of it, Ava, Dana, and I became fast friends. We started with idle chit-chat that rapidly accelerated to exhilarating Saturday nights in West Hollywood. The gals did their best to thoroughly corrupt me, and they thoroughly succeeded. My reward was an invitation to become their roommate in a condo sublet off the 101 freeway, and I accepted. Ava's motivation was companionship and help with the rent. Dana's agenda proved more sinistral, but as the saying goes, you can't rape the willing. Obsessed with becoming a mother, having endured several failed in vitro attempts, she sought a qualified sperm donor. Aside from your bad vision and flat feet, you seem like a good specimen, she joked early on, not joking at all. A week after I turned their second bedroom into a rock and roll man cave, Dana made herself available. Bathroom doors left ajar, braless jammy scamperings in the kitchen, dildos on the living room table as telltale signs. Not taking the not so subtle hints, I finally figured it out when she blew me in her car, told me I was the only dude since high school that she actually wanted to fuck. I felt bad for her wife. I really did. Dana further assuaged my guilt when she mentioned Ava had suggested that we do a three-way. I talked her out of it, Dana added. You're our roommate. That would complicate things. You mean, I looked at her quizzically, like you banging me every night after Ava falls asleep doesn't? In adroit bedroom hopper, Dana was on a mission made possible. The broken condom made it actual. In retrospect, I was too stupid even for a college student at Cal State Northridge. I'm pregnant, she told me on a call as I almost fell out of the phone booth. Dana talked me into keeping the baby and keeping it secret from Ava in case of miscarriage. I've had issues, she sighed, her caution warranted as a nerve-wracking month later. She did, in fact, lose the kid. Ostensibly, the biggest relief of my life didn't sit well for hers. Her goal thwarted, biological clock still ticking, I instantly morphed from young, dumb, and full of cum tool to pointless and annoying third wheel. Around that time, Dana was deciding whether to throw me out of their apartment or start having sex with me again for another whirl at baby making. I met Beck. I'm a loser, baby, so why don't you thrill me? The connection began one weekday afternoon when I was playing a Jimi Hendrix medley loud enough to irritate the neighbors and a few guys walking by who minutes later knocked on our front door. You the one jammin'? Asked the tallest and slickest of the trio. You good, especially for a white boy. You mind if we come in and listen to more of your licks? You play jazz? Turned out they lived in another apartment within the complex, one I'd seen before and deemed the squatter's den. Bare mattresses strewn on the filthy floor, zero furniture, at least a dozen sketchy teens to 20-somethings circulating in and out throughout the day and night. We want to start a band, man, he continued. You can play with us if you down on wearing a nice suit. Their vision, far as I could comprehend it, was an eccentric combination of George Clinton, Billy Ocean, and Bon Jovi. Can you shred some Richie Sambora? My rendition of Runaway sealed the deal. That bad? You cool. We live with another white boy who wants to be manager, but think he don't know shit. We sent him over. You talk truth, Ruth. Let's start gigging, brah. We shook hands. They vanished. A week later, I had just recorded the guitar part to an original song on one of those ancient Tascam 16-track units, a pre-digital clunker that used cassette tape, when I heard another knock on our door. Hi, said this 16-year-old lanky kid with wispy blonde hair wearing a tacky suit over a t-shirt and ripped jeans. I'm Beck, and I'm going to be famous. Rad, I said. Within 30 seconds, we both decided band management wasn't for him. I'm a singer, songwriter, dancer, musician, lyricist, critic, artist, showman, poet, politician, environmentalist, and scientist, said Beck without a hint of irony or self-reflection. I wrote a song, I said, gesturing to the tape machine and a piece of notebook paper with hand-scrawled lyrics. Want to give it a try? I scanned the words to suggest timing and flavor, then gave Beck a pair of headphones and hit record. My song was a rip-off of Led Zeppelin's rip-off of Willie Dixon, with unintentionally syncopated funk guitar, a fake bass track, and overly complicated drum machine track sloppily laid on top. Beck scanned the lyrics, then did what would become his signature hippie rapper shtick. After two measures, I thought he sucked, Beck couldn't have cared less, tediously carrying on until the end with flailing arms, out of key falsetto, random Dr. Seuss lyrics, and other weird shit that made me think this guy was batshit crazy. Pretty cool, I lied, quickly taking my headphones back so he wouldn't walk out with them. Yeah, catchy groove, Beck lied, shrugging. We agreed to play together. Of course, never did. The fateful cassette with the Beckified version of my rock and roll song got thoughtlessly tossed into a desk drawer. The master tape was soon lost or recorded over by another singer I liked much better, but one who subsequently wouldn't sell 50 million albums worldwide, defeat Beyonce for a Grammy win, or befriend David Bowie. Free tacos, unknown geniuses, and saying goodbye. The Parliament, Billy Ocean, Bon Jovi hybrid band members I never saw again. But for some reason, Beck stuck around. Even though we hated each other's music, we somehow enjoyed just hanging out. I was 6 years older than him, which made our friendship strange but not too creepy, especially for LA. I never visited him at the squatter's den or even sought him out. He just randomly showed up whenever he felt like it, whenever we happened to be home. On one such occasion, Beck skulked into our apartment without bothering to knock. "Who the hell are you?" asked Dana, seated at the kitchen table, still wrecked by the loss of her baby, still annoyed that she didn't know what to do with me. "Hi, I'm Beck," said Beck, standing there flailing his arms around again. "I'm going to be famous." Dana smirked at me, at him, sighed deeply. "Should have known," she said. "Our very own freak magnet here drags in another weirdo." "What's up, Beck?" I asked, trying not to tweak Dana's already shitty mood. "I just got back from the MTV Music Awards," said Beck, "where I sat a few seats from Michael Jackson." "You know," added Dana, squinting a thinly painted eyebrow, "young, clueless punks like you wind up getting fucked in the ass." Her slam was caustic, but in character, so I wasn't fazed. But neither was Beck, who took the hit in stride like a homeless Tai Chi master by absorbing, then hurling it back with indifference. Millions of people say they're going to make it. Many even try to make it, but few go all the way. Believing in yourself despite the odds won't ensure success, but victory is impossible unless you do. Far more important than ability is grit. I thought Beck had no talent whatsoever, yet I instantly recognized that this kid, right out of the gate, saw himself for what he would eventually and perhaps inevitably become: world famous. Beck's greatest asset, and arguably the number one prerequisite for fame, he had in droves: relentless determination and seemingly endless resilience. Another strength was buying his own bullshit. "What's your standard for greatness?" I asked him while we waited for tacos and a dive off Venice Beach. "Number of records sold," Beck answered without any hesitation. "Get out of here," I scowled. "How many losers make it? How many unknown geniuses never do?" Creating great music and selling yourself are two totally different skills. Several examples of top 10 garbage and underrated suicides later, Beck still wasn't buying it. He wasn't buying the tacos either. Again, my treat and another hint as to why he chose to hang out with me. 2 blocks down the beach, I'd realized I'd forgotten my wallet at the restaurant. Rushing back, I miraculously found it, but the cash was gone. Symbol of a missed opportunity. "I'll pay you back," Beck would say. Not that he would have, but I never gave him the chance, since by the end of that summer, the gal suddenly kicked me out. Seems Dana finally fessed up to the pregnancy, and along with it, our affair. Pack your stuff up and leave immediately, she advised as I almost fell out of the same phone booth. Ava knows everything and wants to kill you. Chicago, Illinois, fall of 1997. Affairs usually end badly, and ours was no exception. I fled before Ava's wrath could manifest in my painful death. Good for me, not so much for Dana, who had some explaining to do. But like most long term couples, they had already put each other through several episodes of hell, and all was eventually forgiven. Dana and I even tried being friends, deservedly doomed to fail. Ava and I were close before I clandestinely impregnated her wife, shady enough without having all sorts of fun along the way. Closure offers relief that's well deserved if you're the one slighted, but rarely if you happen to be the transgressor. So I was surprised and taken aback when years later, riding a scooter down Melrose Avenue, I rolled right by Ava, who recognized me. At first, she frowned, made a sudden move as if for a semi automatic weapon. An instant later, though, I saw a half smile, then a subtle wink and head nod, which I translated as, I justifiably wanted to murder your ass for fucking my wife. But she's hot. In your shoes, I would have done her too. And yes, I asked her for that three-way just so I could watch. I saluted Ava and zoomed off. Despite her positive spin, Ava might have gotten her revenge after all. Looking back and given what happened to Beck, I often wondered what if I had remained in that condo? What if the future multi platinum artist and I had actually stayed friends, had worked together? The universe and Ava's spirit seemed to answer my questions a decade later and across the country as I sat with another lesbian friend. Her wife at work, Mara, had invited me over to their place to play cards and watch TV. I like being married, she told me after winning another round of Uno, then gazing at me forlornly. But sometimes I really miss having some dick. Uh-oh, not that again. Let's watch Letterman, I interrupted, grabbing a remote control and frantically surfing to change Mara's channel. Our next guest is a most interesting new talent, announced David. His current CD is called Odelay, and he's making his network television debut with us. Ladies and gentlemen, here's Beck. Indeed, there he was. For the first time in my entire life, my jaw literally dropped. What's the matter, Esmera? Pussy got your tongue? I could distinctly hear Ava back in LA laughing. There's a destination a little up the road, sang Beck in front of 20 million people. From the habitations in the towns we know. Oh my fucking God. The same tacky suit, the same awkward seizure like dance moves, the same hippie rapping, the same boyish looks, the same fake it till ya make it, and now still faking it after making it performing style. I had no idea. I was the loser, baby. Truth be told, Beck and I were pals for a few months, yet never hit it off musically. To this day, I think he's still that 16-year-old kid with infinitesimal talent and infinite ambition. But what do I know? I didn't even have the sense to save that 16-track cassette tape with him ruining my faux Led Zeppelin song. Life is full of opportunities, and most of them we miss. I hope you liked that tale as much as I liked retelling it. I remember most of this like yesterday, especially that conversation in the taco stand. And I remember thinking that this guy was a complete fake. But even then, the kid had riz. He had some zing. And seeing him on video and seeing concert footage, interviews, he's the same kid. I've heard similar things said about other rocket fuel powered celebrities like Madonna. That the Madonna you see on video and in documentaries is the exact same Madonna whom you meet in person. And the Beck that I see and the Beck that I hear on the radio walking in the Whole Foods is exactly that same Beck that I met way back in 1986 in North Hollywood, California. I didn't like his music then, and I don't like it now, but as I point out, nobody cares. I definitely wouldn't have made it as Beck's guitar playing partner, and I certainly wouldn't have made it in the music industry that took someone like Beck, embraced him, empowered him, and now revels in his tens of millions of records sold, all of his awards. And in retrospect, I have to hand it to him. Sure, he got lucky, but he did hustle his way a few rows behind Michael Jackson at the MTV Music Awards. And he did tell everyone that his name was Beck and that he was going to be famous. And as I also mentioned, there might be millions of kids. There are millions of kids, especially now with social media, who think and talk and act like Beck did in the mid 80s. And that doesn't mean they're going to sell tens of millions of records. They're going to win all these awards. But at the very least, you need that sense of almost delusional self confidence. You need to be willing and eager to live that life and take those risks. And really, who is to judge what constitutes talent, attitude, appetite, aptitude? Things are just so subjective. And at the very least, all that we need to do is to just be ourselves and do our own thing. Throw that spaghetti against the wall. And even if it doesn't stick, just keep cooking and throwing. You never know. Unbelievable, unfathomable success can lurk around that corner just as easily as destitution and failure. And despite all this, maybe because of it, no one's really going to care per se. If you make it, they're going to conclude that you were destined all along. Of course you did. And then all of a sudden you enter a different category of human. And if you fail, then they're going to be equally resolute and dismissive. Of course you failed. And whether you succeed or you fail, everyone's going to be just thinking about themselves and their relationship, not to your success or failure, but to their own perceptions, not of you, but of themselves. So just go for it. So I say to you, 50 years later, a half century gone by almost. Mazel tov, Beck. I was happy to have known you for that brief stint of time worlds colliding, and you remain an inspiration. Not so much because I love your music or I admire it as I would some other types of musicians, but especially because I don't. That peels away the veneer of any kind of bias or any kind of admiration that goes beyond the sheer accomplishment of just meeting people, looking them in the eye, and saying, "Hi, I'm Beck, and I'm gonna be famous." Thanks for listening, and more to come. My other celebrity friendship story is with Andy Dick, which is even more interwoven, extended, and perhaps surprising and interesting in its own way. So stay tuned, more to come.